Thank you, Nancy. Thanks for the invite. You guys here in Georgia do it right. I'll tell you, this is the largest and best run Academy Day, and we're privileged to be here and to speak with you. I'll echo a little bit of what's already been said, but to me there are 3 key points that you need to take away from today's ceremony. Number 1, do your research. You have some great options. You've heard about most of the options and one more to follow, but consider ROTC within those options. Take a look at what you're interested in and do your research. Make sure you visit the schools that you're interested in, whether that's one of the academies or a state school. Make sure you visit. Make sure you see yourself there. Make sure you approach current students and graduates. Get their perspectives. Gather all this information, and most importantly, make the decision that's right for you. You have a myriad of college options to consider, and we hope you'll consider West Point. We hope that when you do that research, you will see that we are the #1 public college in America by Forbes magazine. We have the #2 liberal arts program in the nation and the #3 engineering program in the nation. There are no other schools in America that are in the top 20 of those 2 lists. West Point's the only one. When you take a look at Rhodes, Hertz, Marshall, and Truman scholarships, the most prestigious scholarships our country has to offer, there are only 4 schools in the top 10 of those 4 scholarships. West Point, Harvard, Princeton, and Stanford. This is the type of education you will receive when you come to West Point, among the best in the nation. We will prepare you for success, not only with our academic program, but with our military and physical program. When you leave West Point, you will be ready to assume command and take control of your career. You can see that just recently, 3 female Ranger School graduates, all West Point graduates. Not as publicized, but Lieutenant Erin Malden, Rhodes Scholar, the first American female to pass or complete the French Commando School. Amazing. Again, a West Point graduate. The commander of the International Space Station, Colonel Tim Copra, a West Point graduate, class of 1985. When the VA needed help, handpicked, Secretary McDonald was hand-selected to come in and fix the problems, the complex problems that exist with the VA. So when our country needs a leader, they call to West Point. West Point is about leadership. It's about people. Our people are our most precious resource. And today we have a bunch of people here that I'd like to just take the time to introduce real quick. So first of all, over in the corner, many of you have met our field force members. We have nearly 100 volunteers here in the state of Georgia that will be here to help you through the admissions process. Many are parents, many are graduates. Take advantage of that resource. We have 5 cadets that we've brought from West Point who are all from Georgia. Real quick, I just want to introduce them so that you can take the time to approach them and ask them the questions. They are the experts when it comes to what's it like to be a cadet. What was the admissions process like? Do you have advice for me? First of all, Cadet Tasha Nash. She's a freshman or a plebe at West Point, and she comes from McIntosh High School in Peachtree City. Cadet Constantine Stevens, also a freshman at West Point or a plebe, and he comes from Effington County High School in Springfield. Cadet Tia Borrego, a yearling or a sophomore at West Point. She comes from Henry W. Grady High School in Atlanta. Cadet John Lake, who's a firstie or a senior who'll be graduating in also 29 days, but who's counting. He's going to go infantry. He's a member of our rugby team and from West Forsyth High School in Cumming, Georgia. And then finally, Cadet Jonathan McElroy, who's also a firstie and a company commander, so he's done a great job as a leader at West Point. And he hails from Crawford County High School in Fort Valley, Georgia. These are some of our people who will be here today to help you answer the questions and help you through the admissions process. I have two more people I just want to cede my time, but one of the most important people you'll meet today, MAJ Herman Bulls. He is your admissions officer. He is at West Point with me. When you apply to West Point, he is your advocate. He is the one that will carry your file to the admissions committee and argue your case. What I'd like to tell you is there's a bunch of people that have come up here and talked about the prep programs. I'm a product of USMAPS, our prep program. Make sure you know Major Bulls and make sure he knows you. If he knows you have that desire and dedication to get into West Point, he's going to work with you and he's going to try to get you not only into West Point, but he's going to look at those backup plans and get you into the prep school and get you that additional year of college so that you can succeed at West Point. 1/3 of our incoming class every year has at least a year of college under their belt. So that's not a bad thing. Know what you want and make sure it's the right fit for you. And if it is, we're going to do everything we can to get you into West Point. So without further ado, I'll introduce MAJ Herman Bulls.
It's not every day that you get to hear your direct boss say that you're important like that, so I better make this good. I'm very excited to be here in Georgia today. One, because I think this is the first time I've ever worn this uniform in the state. Last time I was in Georgia, I was either being pushed out of one of those aircrafts or wandering around the woods at Ranger School. So happy to be here today without a camelback on my back and being yelled at. So that's great. I'm a 2005 graduate of West Point. Upon graduating, I've been able to experience almost everything the Army has to offer. Got to deploy to Iraq for 16 months with Joint Special Operations Command. Got to work with some of the most elite units, all right? Delta, 75th Ranger Regiment, you know, to a lesser extent, Navy SEALs. And it's been amazing. And then I've also gotten to see, though, besides just the side of kicking down doors and capturing bad guys, I've gotten to go on to get my master's degree. The Army just funded me to go and get my MBA from Duke University, and I graduated last May. So I've kind of seen the entire spectrum of what the Army... Thank you very much. But I've gotten to see that entire spectrum of what the Army has to offer, from kicking down those doors to following my higher education dreams, and it's all possible. All right? Real quick, I want to go ahead and tell you what I think the most important thing about the West Point and the Army is. And like you've heard so many people say today, all the academies, they're all great. But there's one thing that separates West Point and the Army from everything else, and that's people. Now you may wonder, you know, people, everyone's talked about people. How can people be the most important thing? And I'll say this, when you go to West Point, and you walk around, you're not going to see statues of submarines or ships or fighter pilots or even tanks or helicopters. You're going to see statues of people. And the reason I say people and why that's so important is because we do three things with people once you come to West Point. The first thing we work on is developing people. Developing you into a better version of yourself, so that way you go on to be all you can be, achieve your goals, get further than what you ever thought your limits were. The second thing we do is lead people. We lead them to success. We lead them to achieve their dreams. Some of my greatest accomplishments have not been what I've done in my military career, but leading those underneath me to accomplish their goals. And then the last thing that I actually think is the most important thing that West Point and the Army does better than any other organization in the world is connecting people. The connections, the bonds that you're going to form with your peers and classmates at West Point, with your platoons that you serve with your peers that you're working with every single day, those connections, that's what's going to last a lifetime. The people in this room, you guys are the top 1%. 99.9% of your peers aren't even thinking about doing what you're doing today. And you're going to have a lot of skills, a lot of assets that when you go out and you're in charge and you're leading and developing and connecting with our young soldiers, you're going to be able to help them and shape their lives in more ways than you can ever imagine. So that's why I focus on people when I talk about West Point, and specifically developing, leading, and connecting with them. Now, after this brief today, West Point's also going to be holding their own separate briefing in the drill hall. Just in case any of you are, Navy or Air Force guys and you're not really good with navigation on the ground, you go out of the gate, you make a left, and a left. All right? Even the Navy and Air Force guys should be able to get that. So any of you guys that want to come to our brief, you're more than welcome to, I promise. All right? In conclusion, though, but before I step down, I want to make sure that I thank you guys in this room. I have 2 young sons at home. My dad graduated from West Point in 1978. My brother graduated in 2011, so West Point's kind of been important to my family. I hope that my 2 sons, the idea of service is something that they want, something that they'll do in some capacity. And what I'm looking for are folks like this in this room. I want someone that's going to lead my sons, someone that's going to care for them, someone that's going to put their well-being before their own if they decide to make that movement into service. And what I'm looking at right now in front of me are the future battalion commanders, brigade commanders, and journal officers that if I'm lucky, my son will be able to work for one day. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for your willingness to consider this as an option and potentially to be the one leading my 2 boys one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Herman. And finally, Lieutenant McKenzie Hudgens. And she is a recent flight school graduate from just the neighboring state in Fort Rucker, Alabama, and is getting ready to go off to fly her Black Hawk at Fort Riley, Kansas. So, welcome.
I'd just like to talk a little bit about my experience, and hopefully y'all can learn from that. I am currently moving from LA to Manhattan, so that's Lower Alabama to Manhattan, Kansas, right outside Fort Riley. And I did graduate from flight school 2 days ago, so just like to... So anybody who's thinking about being a pilot or an aviator, I can just tell you nobody wakes up and says, oh, I wish I hadn't done this with my life because flying's not fun, because I can tell you that's not true. Flying's awesome. And the same goes for West Point as well. When I think about my time at West Point and talk to my friends who went there and who didn't go there, I look at where they have gone with their life and where I'm at with mine, and I've never woken up a single day while I was at West Point or now and said, wow, I wish I hadn't gone here, I wish I had done something else, because I really do. I love what I do. I love flying. I love being a West Point grad and going back and seeing my friends and having the connections with the people that I've met there, and I'm really excited to go out and become a platoon leader and start leading more people in the Army. And some of my friends, not that if you don't go to a service academy you're not going to have a successful life, but a lot of my friends are 25 years old and they're living in their parents' basement and they still don't know what they want to do with their life. And I know exactly what I am doing. My contract is for another 6 years, so I know what I'll be doing for the next 6 years. And after that, I know I'll be set up for life because I feel really confident in the skills that West Point gave me. So along with that, I would also say when you're thinking about a service academy, or even once you get there, what you want to do, select where you want to go based on the mission. Don't select it based on the equipment, because coming into West Point, I thought the uniforms were cool and Blackhawks are cool, and I love the Black Hawk. I think it's the baddest bird in the sky, but what's more important is the mission, because things are going to come and go. Blackhawks are eventually going to be phased out. My dad was in Vietnam and he was flying the Huey, and there's no more Hueys in the Army anymore that are flown like the Black Hawk are. So if you're attached to a certain boat or ship, if you want to be in the Navy, or a certain, a thing, then you're not going to have as good a time if that phases away or goes away. So think about the mission, what the mission of the Army is, what the mission of West Point is, and try to attach yourself to that when you're thinking about applying. And then also, you have to do it for yourself too, not for somebody else. I know it's been said many times, but I really can't tell you how important it is. How many of my friends have gone, and the ones that really were successful and made it are the ones that wanted it for themselves. And I wanted it for myself as much as my parents wanted me to go and are proud of me. I wouldn't have made it if I hadn't have wanted it for me. And then another thing is setting goals. So when I was applying, my goal was to apply and get in. And then when I first showed up, I was thinking, so I had somebody tell me, oh, your first goal should be to get through our day, your first day there. And I thought, oh, well, that's just a day. I can get through a day. And then I showed up on our day, and I was like, okay, I got to make it through the next 5 minutes. My bag was so heavy, and I remember thinking, don't ever pack, like, whoever you talk to, tell them, don't bring a heavy bag on our day, because I was miserable having to stand there. And then my goal became, okay, I'm going to make it through the first week, and then I'm going to make it through, halfway through, you have a change of command, a change of detail, you get all new cadre come in. So I was like, my squad leader is really tough, so then my goal became, all right, I'm just going to make it until he leaves, and then it'll get better. And so that keeps going. When I started flight school, it was the same thing. I carried that on from West Point into flight school, and my first day flying, I thought going in, I was like, okay, my goal is going to be to make it up and to hover on the first day. And then my goal was like, I just want to live. When I take the controls, I just want to live. It's a lot harder and scarier than it seems when you're on the ground. And then same thing with failure, when you do fail and you have small goals, well, that's just one step back. If you only set big goals for yourself, then it's going to be a lot harder to come back from that. I was on the orienteering team, so I picked up a lot of good navigational skills being on that team at West Point. And then when I got to flight school, we have a solo where we go out and you and your stick buddy, so it's just two students flying, so everybody's got to clear the airspace because it's frightening to just have two new pilots out there. And I had no problem navigating while my stick buddy was flying, and we made it out to the airport. We made it to our 2 locations that we had to go to, and so then we switched over, and I was flying and she was navigating, and so she's over there, she's flipping through a map, and she's getting really frustrated, and she's like, that pond is not supposed to be here, there's supposed to be a road, there's supposed to be power lines, and she's going on and on about all these things that are supposed to be around us, and all we can see are trees. And then she was like, oh, I'm on the page, and she flips it over. She had all these sticky notes on her map where it marked out our location, our route, and everything, and there's no doors on our helicopter, so those sticky notes go flying out the window. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a church over there. I'm going to go fly around it, and we're going to figure out where we are. And both of us, as soon as we we held it together, and we missed a radio call, so they already had the search and rescue guys out looking for us. And but we ended up finding our spot, and we're like, all right, we're going to go to our last checkpoint, and then we're going to go back. And we kept our cool. We didn't freak out and land. We didn't just fly till we ran out of gas. We held it together, and I really don't think that I would have been that calm and collective had I not gotten my navigational skills from West Point, and then also just learning how to, when you have a setback and when you have that one little failure, to just, all right, you can't fix it, we're just going to go from here, because that doesn't mean that's the end of the mission. Missing one place or one time or one radio call, that's not the end of it, so you can't stop there, you got to keep going. So I'm really glad that I have that skill now, and it makes me feel a lot more confident deploying with my battalion in Afghanistan, to be able to go out there and know that, all right, at least once in my life I've gotten lost on my own before, and I've figured it out and gotten back. So and then the last thing I want to say is my little brother, he's in your seat, he's 17 years old, he's wanting to apply to the service academies, and so he's thinking about where to go. And I thought, the Air Force has the best housing and the cushiest location, so he should totally go to the Air Force. And then so I was like pushing that, and I was like, oh no, but because he really likes to live the nice life and eat nice meals and everything. So I'm like, Drew, you gotta go there, you'll fit in. And then I was flying around near Tyndall Air Force Base, and I saw all these Air Force guys walking out. Their uniforms are all, jacked up, not wearing the right stuff. And I was like, oh, Drew really likes to look good, so he can't go. I was like, Drew, don't go in the Air Force. They don't wear their uniforms right. You can't do it. And I was like, the Navy, they have really good looking uniforms. You'll look super sharp. Go to the Naval Academy. And I was like, you gotta do it because he likes to look good. And then I thought, well, you know what, he's going to have to be, I've gone deep sea fishing. I was like, you don't want to be on a boat with the same people for 8 months somewhere. I was like, so don't go there. And then I thought, he really likes to be number one. We're one of 6, so, 5 other siblings, and you're always competing. And I was like, where's the only place you can go? There's only one number one, and that's West Point. So I was like, now I'm like, go West Point, Drew. Be like me, be a Black Hawk pilot, because it's awesome and you'll never regret it. So thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions.